Welcome back, Honors 10. Today we're going to be discussing noun clauses. Our goal for today is to be able to identify noun clauses and how they function within sentences. Now, and as you're reading through this information, make sure you're taking notes and writing down questions that you may have. A noun clause is a type of subordinate clause that functions as a noun. They are very similar to gerunds in the sense that they can play the same roles within sentences. So noun clauses can be a subject, a direct object, or an indirect object. They can also function as predicate nominatives or as objects of a preposition. Just like gerunds, noun clauses cannot be removed from a sentence unless that noun clause is an indirect object, but those indirect objects, noun clauses, appear very infrequently. So generally, a noun clause can't be taken out, otherwise it's not going to leave a complete sentence, which makes them then different from adjective and adverb clauses, which can both be removed. A noun clause will not use commas. That's another way you can distinguish them from adjective and adverb clauses. We need to do a quick review of noun functions. This is the same information that you learned before about gerunds. Remember that a noun that's functioning as the subject is going to begin the sentence. It'll be the very first item at the beginning of the sentence. A direct object follows action verbs. And remember, the formula to find an action verb, or to find a direct object, is to find the subject, find the action verb, and then you ask either who or what. And whatever the answer is to the who or what is the direct object. Remember that an indirect object is always going to fall between the action verb and the direct object in the sentence. Remember, the formula to find an indirect object then is to find the subject, find the action verb, ask who or what to find the direct object, and then to find the indirect, you're going to ask to or for whom or what. And whatever answers that last series of questions is going to be your indirect object. Predicate nominatives, remember that these follow linking verbs only, and that objects of prepositions follow prepositions. They are going to, these noun clauses as objects of prepositions will appear directly after a preposition. All right, we need to practice locating noun clauses in sentences and then also identifying the function of that noun clause. Remember, you need to know the words that signal that there is a subordinate clause in the sentence. Use the list that you wrote down before of subordinating conjunctions and relative pronouns to help you find your noun clauses. All right, so in number one, I see the word whatever. That is a word that signals a subordinate clause, and I'm going to underline whatever you want to do. And I'm going to stop because the next word is the verb in the sentence. I know that this noun clause is functioning as the subject of the sentence because it begins the sentence, and the subject is going to stop when it hits the main verb in the sentence. Within my noun clause, my subordinating conjunction is the word whatever, and then my subject is you, and want is my verb for this clause. In number two, some people say that heredity determines personality. I see the word that, which is a signal that I have a subordinate clause. That heredity determines personality. I'm going to continue all the way until I hit the punctuation at the end. This particular noun clause still has a subject and a verb. Heredity is the subject, determines is the verb. And then I need to determine the function of this noun clause. Because it's in the second half of the sentence, it's not starting the sentence, I have to look at the word directly in front of the clause. That word is say, which is an action verb, and a direct object follows an action verb. And if I ask, some people say what? The answer to that is that heredity determines personality, so I know it's the direct object in the sentence. All right, for number three, this one's a little bit trickier. They give whatever we have as our genetic makeup the credit or blame. All right, I see the word whatever, which signals that there is a subordinate clause. I also see that it's in the second half of the sentence, this noun clause, and so I have to look at what's in front of it. Give is an action verb. Now, this means that I have a direct object, most likely in the sentence, so I'm going to say, they give what? The answer to that is the credit or blame, which is the direct object then. So I'm not going to include that in my noun clause. Instead, I'm going to say that the noun clause is whatever we have as our genetic makeup. I'm going to stop at makeup because it runs into the direct object of the sentence, which means that my subordinate clause is an indirect object in this sentence, and I can use the formula to test if it's an indirect object. They give credit or blame to whom or what. They give that credit or blame to whatever we have as our genetic makeup. Within the subordinate clause, the subject is we and have is our verb. Number 4, another influence can be whom you select as friends. I see the word whom, which signals that there's a subordinate clause, and I'm going to say that my subordinate clause is whom you select as friends. I'm going to continue until I hit the period at the end of the sentence. And within the subordinate clause, my subject is you, my verb is select, and then I'm going to look at what is in front of the subordinate clause. Can be is a verb phrase. Can is a helping verb, but be is the main verb, and it's a linking verb, which means that this one is functioning as a predicate nominative because this clause follows a linking verb. Number 5, you may be influenced by what you learn from your family. I see the word what, which is a pronoun signaling that I have a subordinate clause, and then my clause is what you learn from your family. I continue till I hit the period. I have the subject you, and I have the verb learn within that clause, and it's in the second half of the sentence, so I need to look at what's in front of it, the word by, which is a preposition, which means then that this clause is functioning as the object of a preposition. Last thing, go to my webpage, take the practice quiz under the clauses and sentence structure unit that's titled Noun Clause Practice Activity. Take the quiz, check your answers against the answer key, and then be prepared tomorrow to ask questions on the notes and on any that you may have gotten incorrect on the homework practice.